Our times is great.
I'm recording. Okay, there it is. All right, so I'll call the meeting to order now that we're recording at 6:34 p.m. In accordance with the requirements of open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over Lunenburg Public Access. The town of Lunenburg, in response to the COVID-19 coronavirus, is currently following the guidance from the Lunenburg Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread. Town facilities are open 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and by appointment outside of those hours. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A, section 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. This meeting will be broadcast live through local access cable on Facebook Live on the public access Facebook page, facebook.com Lunenburg-public-access.cable-157427270975305, and will be able to be found on Lunenburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting. The following information is also provided for members of the public that would like to participate in the meeting remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link below to join the public meeting webinar, https://us.zoom.us/j/857-557-39577. From a telephone, dial the toll-free number 888-475-4499 and enter the meeting ID 857-5573-9577. If you've not registered with Zoom, you'll be asked for your name and email address. No participant ID, just press pound when asked. Telephone users may dial *9 to request to speak after joining the meeting. Computer and app users may use the raise hand feature to request to speak. Sorry, I stumble through that every single time. But we have a quorum present. I see Sarah Kammer, Paula Bertram, Anna Lockwood, Bob Pease, and myself as chair. First order of business would be to review and approve the minutes from the February 16 meeting. Has everybody had a chance to review those minutes? And would anybody like to make a motion to approve?
I'm making a motion to approve the minutes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Great. I have one minor edit, and I only saw it on the first page and I don't think it's anywhere else, but Mike Toohill's name is spelt wrong under item 3. Where is it? 3A.
Okay.
Toohill.
Okay, I can correct that.
So if there's you guys will accept that that amendment, we can vote to approve by roll call. Sarah?
Yes.
Paula?
Aye.
Bob?
You're
I saw
muted,
your
Bob.
mouth move. You're muted. Still muted. Anna?
Aye.
And I for myself. I saw.
Aye.
There it is.
Okay.
Thank you, Bob. We will go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. And in fact, we have Joanna Bellata here with us from Lunenburg, Lake Shirley Improvement Corporation, and I would respectfully request that we take her out of order here on the agenda in respect of her time. And is there any opposition to that? Great. All
No.
right. Quickly, Joanna had reached out to me and expressed an interest in joining our committee to talk about the Parmenter Road parcel, the small town-owned parcel on Parmenter Road that has frontage on Lake Shirley. And so we agreed to give her a piece of time tonight to have a conversation with us. So Joanna, I'll give it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your time. I had heard you were looking at that property. People had reached out to me, and Lake Shirley has lost, we had recreational space for the association over, it was the Moose Lodge or then Camp David, which has been sold, and now there's 2 house lots there. So we've lost that recreational space. So we're kind of looking at, as an association, some type of recreational space for the board, lake residents to have, barbecues, bocce tournaments, all those types of things that we used to do at Camp David. So in hearing discussions of this, I didn't know if this was something that would be viable. I know it's very hilly, but I just wanted to get your take on it and what your thoughts were with the property, what you were looking to do with the property. Because I know right now, I think someone had said there was a neighbor's driveway or something on the town property, or that would need to be rectified or something. So I really don't know the extent of what the town was looking to do.
So we have been looking at basically the entire inventory of what we call general municipally owned properties in town, properties that don't have a dedicated use or care and control that's given to a specific town board. So these are just sort of generally owned municipal properties. And we're looking at sort of that existing inventory of municipally owned properties and trying to see whether or not there is a public, either recreational or open space use that those properties should potentially be dedicated to. So all we've been doing at this point is really assessing all the properties that are available and considering them through that lens, whether it's an open space or public use sort of component to it. So that's when we've looked at the Parmenter parcel, we were looking at, obviously it's got frontage on Lake Shirley, but like you said, it's hilly and everything else. There may be some challenges to how it could be used or developed. So we don't have I don't think we put forward a recommendation yet as to what we would consider for the future use of that property.
Okay.
So when you guys are looking at it, Joanna, what are you obviously bocce courts and things like that. If you've been to that piece of property, it goes from the road and gets kind of pretty steep and goes down to the water's edge there.
Right. For us, it's, very similar to, I'll say like Island Beach at Hickory Hills, if you're all familiar with that, just a space where, again, residential members, not members of Lake Association, because not all residents on the lake are, but for lake resident use. We wouldn't be looking to have like a boat ramp and have boats going in and, having gates up to monitor all of that. Strictly for recreational group outings within our lake resident community is kind of what we're in the thought process of. Because I think as a lake, to open things up, because we spend 30 to 40,000, some years 50,000 in lake resident funds to chemically treat the lake, care for the lake. So, we're very conscious on opening up things for recreational, for non-lake residents. As is, we have the big Shady Point that we work with, on a yearly basis, trying to maintain some kind of relationship there. So I don't think that we'd be looking for more off-lake access. So it would definitely be just for lake residents. Offer swimming lessons for kids that live on the lake during the summer type thing, doing those type of activities. And we used to do that from Camp David, but now, like I said, there's 2 houses there. So we've lost that luxury.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
That's kind of what, as you're looking at these, if there's things you see that might be something that we would be a benefit to Lake Shirley, we'd be very interested in having that conversation.
okay. Good. Does anybody have any questions for Joanna?
All right, well, thank you all for your
Not seeing
time.
any. Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you.
I do have a couple questions, and I'm trying to. I'm a little lost in between my devices now, so I apologize for that. So Joanna, just to be clear, what I hear is the Lake Association would like to have access to that property, and that property would become private to the Lake Association. It would not have access to the other Lunenburg residents would not have public access to that property. That's your intention, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So, and you mentioned that the association does a lot of maintenance of the water and so forth, and you guys do, a great job. And I just, as you stated that, and since this is a public meeting, I want to also state that the town use taxpayer money to maintain other aspects of the Lake Shirley. So we are right now, just as it has been stated, we're not looking at this particular property per se to do one thing or the other, but we do feel like, we haven't taken a vote as a committee, that the town does makes investments and financial investments onto the lake, that it would be great if we could expand that so that the town residents can have access to outside just Shady Point.
What financial, are you talking of the dam?
Yep.
Because we pay for the dam house, we pay the electric at the dam house, we mow the lawn at the dam house, we plow the dam house.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not, this is not comparing who pays more or not. It is a question of, we all pay in, as the town and the Lake Association pays some in, and we have limited access through Shady Point. So I think it would be fair, as this committee goes to explore what can we do, for us to explore, is there a benefit to all residents for the town to keep this property?
All right, well, what does the town pay for the dam on a yearly basis? What's that cost? Because
I don't know.
We gave
Again,
the dam to the town.
It's not about, I'm not comparing expenses. I'm saying the town has expenses associated with that as we have, and if this is an opportunity to expand access to the residents, to all residents, I think us as a committee, I would like to explore that possibility.
Thank you. Would you be able to find out the cost?
So Anna, I really appreciate you stating that, because as I look at this as a member at large, my view is what would interest everyone in town, not one group or another. And when I look at access to people who don't live right on a lake in most parts of town, they don't have access. There's some access through Shady Point, but again, that is also owned by Shady Point, right? It's not like you can just take your canoe and get in there. You have to pay. And so when I look at that parcel, it is currently town-owned land. It is a possibility for other people to have access. I'm not talking about motorboats or anything like that. It's a pretty steep terrain. I think, when you think about access to the lake, that is going to be a small amount of traffic compared to, say, a motorboat, for example. And I do understand that Lake Shirley and the corporation puts a lot into the maintenance of the lake. But I do also know that Lunenburg provides police surveillance on the lake. People respond, the fire. If there's an emergency, Lunenburg responds. And I don't really want to get into an argument over who owns the lake more, because right now the town does own that parcel.
Oh, yes.
And
they do.
I want to act in the best interest of everyone in town, which includes having some place to have recreation. And I understand that Hickory Hills doesn't have that. And you mentioned that, absolutely. But I think that is a sad state for other people in town who would also enjoy recreation there. We also have another great pond that no one has access to. So it is something that I think interests many people in town. And I do appreciate that you have lost some acreage along the lake for recreation and that you're looking for it. But I wouldn't be inclined to just turn that over to the Lake Shirley Corporation because there are people throughout town who don't have access at all to that lake.
Thank you.
And Brandon,
Yeah, Paula, go ahead.
couple of differences. I heard mention of Hickory Hills, or obviously we're talking about Lake Shirley. Hickory Hills is a little bit different in the situation that Lake Shirley is, in that the land under the lake and is owned by Hickory Hills. It's a private corporation, a private entity. Lake Shirley has a cloudy title. Years ago, we did a title search, and there's a question as to whether or not the town owns it or Lake Shirley Improvement Corp, or there was a mill company at one point that may continue to be a partial owner. But the difference is that when the dam was rebuilt, it was with the stipulation that public access be permitted on Lake Shirley. And as part of that deal, Stump Cove, the area commonly known as Stump Cove, was given to the town as public access. We all know that the public access from Stump Cove is limited at best. So the committee is looking at options for public access, and I applaud all the work that LSIC does on the lake, and I think they do an amazing job. And my hope would be that we would be able to acquire property that could be used for town use and the benefit of Lake Shirley. I don't see that one is exclusive of the other. So, there's no reason that Lake Shirley Improvement Corp couldn't say, I'm having a function this day, or we're having an event this day, and utilize that parcel. So I think that we can have the best of both worlds. I will say that, the committee is looking at all the different options on the lake. There are several other parcels that are town owned. And one thing I wanted to say is exclusive use would be a problem, because in order to do exclusive use, we would have to go through the auction process, because the town cannot grant property to one entity without going through an auction process. So there's a very clear process in which the town can dispose of property. So that's really not an option, but I don't know that one is exclusive of the other, but we are looking at public access in accordance with the original agreement for the dam.
And it should also be noted is that, our committee has 0.0 control over any of this. we're simply looking at what we think would be good for open space and recreation, and we will make a recommendation to ultimately to the Board of Selectmen, who has the care and control of these properties under general municipal ownership. And quite possibly that would then end up going to town meeting and would have to be voted on and approved there. So all we're doing at this point is looking at what are the assets that we have in town, not just at Lake Shirley, but throughout town, that are generally municipally owned. Which ones make good sense from a conservation and recreation standpoint that are in keeping with our goals that are outlined in our open space and recreation plan. And then we'll make some recommendations based on that up to, the powers that be that actually can make a decision. So, that's really the process we're engaged in. We're really in one of assessment at this point and trying to see, again, we've got this great set of land resources distributed throughout town that maybe have conservation and recreation interests that aren't currently used that way, that we could enhance for the benefit of the public. So that's really what we're engaged in.
Thank you. Makes sense.
Good. Any other questions from Joanna or for Joanna?
No, I'm good.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Joanna.
Thank you.
and-
Thank you for your
and,
Thank you.
volunteerism.
Yeah,
Nice
we
seeing you
appreciate you
all.
stopping by tonight. Excellent. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to the Chase Road, Northfield Road, parcel map 33, parcel 6, map 38, parcel 17 and 24.2, agricultural preservation restriction. This was added late to the agenda. This is the information that I had forwarded to the committee from town manager. And you should have all of that information. The bottom line of this is they're looking for board feedback for this, is aimed to be on this Springtown meeting warrant. They're looking, this is the Pierce Tree Farm property over by, I guess it's on Chase Road and Northfield Road, and also maybe on, is that West Townsend Road as well. They're looking to put an agricultural preservation restriction on that property. And agricultural preservation is a permanent deed restriction that goes on the property that allows the property to continue to be owned and managed as agricultural land, but it continues to be privately owned and managed as agricultural land. And it allows them to basically get paid for the development rights of the parcel and while continue to own and manage it as ag land. If you read through the documents, it looks like the Pierces are looking to sell the APR to the state, and that and then they would transfer the ownership of the property to Steve Violet or with Dick's Market Garden, and it'd become, continue to be owned and managed as agricultural land for that purpose. The APR program provides the bulk of the funding for agricultural preservation restriction acquisitions. If you look at the draft warrant article that was included, the total APR is valued at $665,000 for the parcel, and the parcel is about 99 acres in size, and they're asking for a town match, a component of that, to be 10% of the total acquisition price, so $66,500. The agricultural preservation restriction requires up to, I think it's 20% match by the way they do the program, but you get credits for having an agricultural commission, for instance. You get credits for having a right to farm bylaw. So we have these things in town, so we don't have to make as much money up in the match. We have to make up 10% apparently in this acquisition. This acquisition joins the Saliba parcel that we acquired just a couple of years ago. And so actually just last summer, I guess we closed the acquisition, which is now known as the Table Rock Conservation Area. And so it has good contiguity with our other conservation ownerships in that area. Agricultural preservation restrictions generally do not provide for public access. So that's not a guarantee, though you can work with the landowners to get trail access if they're interested in working with you like you would any other private landowner for privately owned lands. But public access is not a guaranteed right with an agricultural preservation restriction. So I guess the Board of Selectmen is looking for a recommendation from us with regard to the request that's in front of us. So did anybody have any questions about this in particular?
I have a comment. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. I see a lot of nodding with that. So rather than belaboring it, do we want to take a vote to recommend approval of this project or support of this project?
I move the Open Space Committee endorse this project.
Second,
Okay, that works for me. Seconded by Paula. Is there any further discussion?
I would, I don't know if this will change my vote. But you know, I was looking at the map of the property, and the property doesn't seem to have a lot of frontage. Um, and this would remain as a private property. It wouldn't necessarily, the public wouldn't have access. And I think it's a great opportunity to prevent further development, but I don't know if this piece of land would allow for a lot more development. But I think, again, it's more of a comment in a sense of to say, you know, this is what it is. I think it's great that we have farms and the land will still be farmed. It would be better if we were able to, you know, the more ideal world, if it was public land that we could add to the other land that we have, so that to be extended. But I guess that's not what's on the table now. Just my wish that that was the case.
I certainly appreciate that, Anna. One of the big sections of our open space committee, or open space plan rather, talks about agricultural viability and wanting to preserve agricultural viability in town, and making it not just a pretty place to live with agricultural lands, but also a place where farmers can actually viably farm and do it in a way that's economically advantageous for them, so that it's actually a good place to do agricultural business. And Lunenburg is actually pretty unique in the fact that we have actually a pretty high density of APR protected farmland in town. If you drive down Lancaster Ave and you see those beautiful pastoral landscapes, the reason you see that is because those farms are all APR protected.
Right.
And so we're actually quite lucky to have that kind of density of APRs in town. And I would say that, you know, and I'm just trying to make you feel a little bit better about this, is that one of the main sort of hindrances to agriculture in town is the cost of land, is the cost of actually, and you know, that's their major investment, right, in terms of running their business. And the cost of land and the cost of property taxes and cost of everything is really difficult for farmers in suburban settings like ours. So we're lucky that we have a way to reduce the cost of land ownership that increases the viability of their ability to run their agricultural businesses. So this is, in my mind, APRs are a little different than sort of traditional open space protection, because really it's not, and if you talk to people in the APR program, they'll tell you this, it's not a open space preservation tool, it's a farm preservation tool. It's about preserving farms and preserving farmland. And one of their main things, one of the main scoring things that they look at, if you look at the scoring sheet, you'll see is they look at prime agricultural soils. They want to protect soils. They're protecting the substrate in which farming can happen, the best substrate in which farming can happen. And that's really the goal of that program. So I like the fact that this has connectivity with our open spaces, and offers, you know, additional buffer to our open spaces where it wouldn't be, you know, totally residential development. And I would certainly prefer a farm as an open space neighbor than really dense development.
Oh, certainly. Everything you said, it's I'm just a park girl. I like parks. No, it's great. It was just one thing I'm curious, and this is general curiosity. So this land, it passes on to, you know, inherit as a piece of, as a state, but it can also be sold to another person who will farm. So it doesn't have to. Okay.
Yep.
Because that's,
And that's actually what's going to happen here is the Pierces would sell the APR to the state, and then they would sell the underlying ownership of the property to become part of the Dick's Market Garden property.
I just
know.
hope they keep the Christmas trees, because that's our tradition.
Yeah, I hear you. Sorry, my cat's on.
That's
Right.
all right. Well, I don't mean to derail the meeting further. Thank
No,
you.
that's fine. I think I mean, those are good questions, and it's, and I'm sure there's other people in the public that have them. So it's a good place to actually have those conversations here. But yeah, and it's another tool in the toolbox for protecting, land and keeping it open, but it's not really an open space. That's not their driver. Their driver is to protect farms and keep farms viable.
Which is great.
Good. Well, there was a motion on the table to endorse this project, and it was seconded. We'll go for a roll call here. So Anna, since you had the floor.
I vote to approve the motion. Aye.
Thank you. Bob,
Aye.
Paula,
Aye.
Sarah,
Aye.
and I as well. Motion carries. Thank you. It's exciting. That's been percolating out there for a long time. I think I talked with Pierce's about that probably 10 years ago.
I was just gonna say, I think it was 10 years ago when it was
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah, so I'm excited that's moving forward. Good. So moving on, I had held a spot for the Lake Shirley parcels in case there were any updates that you had on any further conversations, Paula.
Honestly, I've been swamped this month with a big database install, so I haven't got to it.
Okay. All right, that's fine. Had you heard anything further from Doug?
No. Bob, you were gonna send me a list of the parcels.
I
on
did.
Lake You did?
I did send it to you.
Okay, I'll have to look for it.
About 3 days after the meeting, I sent it to you. You want me to resend it to you right now?
Could you?
Sure. I'll find it and resend it.
All right, thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, then we can move on. Bob, you had requested at the last meeting to spend some time reviewing the Oliver lot.
Well, I just, the Oliver lot shows up in the assessor's database. If you look at the second owner, it says something about conservation. And I think it appears in the last open space plan as listed as conservation land as a result. But as far as I can tell, it has no title that I can find. And, the note in the last open space plan, says, in the database says, needs further research. And, and I tried to do some simple research looking at abutters deeds going back to try to figure out, like what other parcel was it part of before it was cut up, because it's obviously been cut up into lots. And I didn't make any progress on that. But it's a perfectly good piece of land in the middle of a residential area. It's clearly not covered by the Article 97 of the Constitution, because it has no title, saying that it's conservation land. And in my opinion, the town should clean up the title and sell it. But that's just my personal opinion based on my limited knowledge so far. I mean, it could be that there's more stuff I don't know what I don't know. So, but that's why I said that, and that's where I'm at.
Okay. So do folks know, I'm gonna share my screen here if I can and pull up the parcel. just so people can see, what we're looking at here. So let me try to do this. So it's highlighted here in yellow.
So the question that I would have is when Bob says the town clean up the title, how do you do that?
Well,
So go ahead,
I'll
Bob.
let Brandon speak. Brandon knows about this better than I do.
Well, if it's truly an owner unknown parcel, it's a different process than simply going through the tax title process, which is what we had talked about before when we had the tax collector in. So the owner unknown parcel is what I can do is actually look up there's a great white paper that was done, I want to say by the trustees of reservations, about owner unknown parcels. But in Massachusetts, it's sort of a difficult process. It's not just as simple as like an adverse possession or something where you take something adversely. If it's truly an owner unknown, you actually have to make a strong effort to identify all owners or potential owners. So there's a number of different steps you have to go through in order to do that. And even then, whether or not the land court will allow you to establish title is questionable. So it's sort of a high bar, as I understand it. So, I mean, if I were recommending something here, Bob, it would be to, have you talked to the town council about this yet?
I have not talked to the town council about it.
Okay.
I have
So,
a meeting with the
I
town
mean, it seems
council,
to
I
me-
think, on the 22nd.
Okay. Seems to me we'd want to know kind of what town council's impression is about what the process would be.
Yep.
And how we would undertake that process to clear it up. The only other thing I could, even if you tried to take, with like eminent domain or something, just to clear the title, you still have to, the land court's going to want you to prove that you tried to identify, you can't take a parcel from no one, I guess is what it comes down to, right? So it's a challenging thing. I don't know what else to say about it.
Well, who pays, what I thought was, if it's parcel unknown, property taxes are not being paid. So at some point, the town can take ownership through the debt that's owed to the town. So a different way to go about.
Still have to foreclose it against somebody.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't allow you to just foreclose against, I guess not.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but those are questions I think we'd have to really explore with town council. So, I mean, the first thing I'd want to do is see if we could figure out who the last known owner was, and that would be, require the deed research from the abutters. Usually, abutters deeds would say by land of so and so. That gives
Yep.
you a clue of who the previous landowner was there, and then you can search through the registry records and see the sort of last known owner you can find, and then you could start from there. The first thing I would do from there is check local probate records, and see who the heirs were of that parcel. And because a lot of times, if the last known owner was from the 1950s, you could figure that out, and you might actually find somebody that's still alive that has some relation to it. But if it's from the 1850s, that's different kettle of fish. So, okay, well, I mean, Bob, I'd say the first step is next time you're talking with the town council is to talk to him about what he sees as the process going forward. I'll see what I can wrestle up from other information I've seen in terms of the process for owners unknown parcels, and we can go from there. if I've got some time between now and then is I'll try to do a little bit of title research on it too and see what I can come up with.
And you say the trustees of reservations have a white paper on owner unknown?
I think it was the trustees of reservations. I'll look it back up. I think I remember seeing it on, it was back when I had access through the Massachusetts Land Trust Coalition. But I've got some contacts that I can try to, if I can't find it myself, I can probably get my fingers on it.
Well, their headquarters is right over there on Doyle. I can,
I'm not sure that the author, it was authored a while ago. So it may be a 15-year-old paper at this point, but I don't think the process has changed.
Yep.
So, okay,
Thank you.
good.
I'll take it up with Adam Costa when I meet with him, my next meeting with him.
All right, good. We don't really have anything else on the agenda besides public comment. Does anybody have anything else they wanted to bring up or discuss tonight? I don't see any other members of the public on any longer. Our next meeting date is scheduled for April 20th. A couple of things. Number one, I've been in communication with David Prokofiew, who I think we mentioned last time has interest in that West Street parcel, the former school parcel over in the Whalum district, and the Pleasant Street parcel as well. He's very interested in making a presentation to our committee to discuss his knowledge and interest in those parcels. I think that'd be really informative. He's given me a draft of a sort of a written review of the parcel and his interest in it. That's excellent. I think it's very comprehensive. Give us a better idea of what those two parcels have to offer from an open space and recreation perspective. And so my plan is to invite him in to have a conversation with us at that next meeting.
Brandon, I'm sorry, I must not have. What's the other parcel besides the School Street parcel?
The Pleasant Street parcel, the
Oh, the Pleasant
agricultural,
Street parcel.
that
Okay,
large
yep,
agricultural parcel, sort of across the street from the other.
I know which one you speak. Yeah, it's also
Yeah,
called the Twin Cities parcel.
Yep, sort of across the street from Laurel Bank.
Yep.
So it's the
Thanks.
West Street and Pleasant Street parcel?
And Pleasant Street parcel, yeah.
Okay.
So I know Bob and I'm going to try to join you guys too, is also going to try to get together with Dave between now and then, hopefully, and have a walk out there and actually take a look at it and see what it is, what there are for trails on the property, particularly the West Street parcel.
If you could let committee members know, I know I'd like to join you guys.
Okay,
And I know Mike had said he'd like to go on some site visits, so I think there may be interest in more than just a couple of us. I think
okay,
seeing it before Dave's presentation would be great.
that's a
Yeah.
great idea.
I'll try very hard to join.
Okay,
You're welcome.
super. Then with regard to the April 20th meeting, I have to be out of town that day, so I'm not available that day. So we could either keep that date and somebody else can chair the meeting and do it in my absence, or we can change the date of the meeting. I don't know what.
I move we change the date of the meeting to sometime when Brandon can be there.
I agree.
I second
Okay.
that.
Let's just look at the calendar then. Would the following week, the 27th, work for folks?
Works for me.
It doesn't work for me.
May 4th?
That works for me.
Works for me.
Sarah, is that good for you?
I'm not sure. My life is going to completely change after April 28th.
Okay,
Well,
It's a full return. at my job with a lot of things flying. But I will put it on my calendar, and
Okay.
if I'm not, under a rock, I'll be there.
That sounds good.
So
Earlier would
so did
actually
we
work
settle on
better.
May 4th?
Well, I mean, if we could do, could we do April 13th? Does that work better for people? Sounds like that would work better for
It
Sarah.
does for me, but
Yeah, that works for me.
Works for me.
Works for me.
All right, why don't we do
Okay.
that then? Let's do April 13. And
thank you.
yeah, thank you. And we'll aim for that. And unless I have a problem securing the Zoom link and everything, getting that changed, let's presume that we'll do the 13th, and I'll circulate confirmation of that when I get it. Good. Well, thanks. And I don't have anything else. Anybody else have anything for public comment? All right, hearing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Excellent. Is there a second?
Aye.
Thank you.
Second.
A
Great.
second.
Aye.
There you go.
Bob, all those in favor, Bob, by roll call?
Aye. Aye.
Sarah,
Bye.
Anna,
Aye.
Paula,
Aye.
and I for myself. Thank you all very much. Paul, if you could flip those minutes so I can forward them over to the Board of Selectmen particularly on the Pierce APR, that'd be very helpful.
I have an install this week,
Okay.
2 actually, so I gotta tell you,
All
I
right.
can't. even
I'll
look
just
at the
punch him an email that says
Yeah.
okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I've been
Yep.
working till 2:30 in the morning trying to get this stuff done, so I can't promise that.
With that, let's end the meeting.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.
Aye.
Bye.
Bye.